Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Red Pill Podcast 171. I hope you're all having an amazing weekend out there. And the first week of July has been wild, to say the least. So we have a lot to cover in today's podcast. We're just going to get straight into things. But before we get started, make sure you get comfortable, get relaxed, grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea if it's a little bit earlier out there, or a glass of wine or beer, or any beverage of your choice if it's a little bit later out there, wherever you are. Again, I appreciate every single one of you for joining today. And for those that are new to the Wolfpack, welcome. So great to have you here with us. If you've yet to get access to our Discord server, just go ahead and send me a direct message here on Patreon with your Discord username, and I will reply back to you in a Patreon message with the Discord server invite. Please don't comment below or email me with your Discord details. I won't be able to help you that way. You will need to direct message me here on the Patreon platform in order to get access to our Discord. Also, we're doing amazing with the altcoin voting system that we do every week. This week, we're going to be covering about 4 different altcoins on top of our usuals: Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP. We'll be getting into Stacks, Swiftcoin, Constellation, DAG, and Tron. Maybe even peeking in at the total 2 and total 3 market cap charts if we have the time. But if you are new here and you don't know how this altcoin system works, all you got to do is just go ahead in the comments section below this video in the Patreon comment section of this Red Pill podcast and submit the name of the project and the ticker symbol. And whatever coins get the most votes from our community members is what will be picked for next week. And please, let's try to give at least 3 months in between a coin that we've already covered in the past. So if you're unsure if we've covered the coin that you're looking to vote on, just go ahead and use the search function. It's very useful here, not only on Patreon, but our Discord server. This way you'll know the last time I covered a project. All you got to do is sort in the search section by my posts, type in WatersAbove, press enter, and then type in the name of the crypto and then press enter again. And usually the last time I wrote out the name of the crypto is when I did a Red Pill podcast, and that's the easiest way to look that information up. Okay, so let's get into today's podcast. I did have some new venture capital positions added to my portfolio. I brought those up in the last What I'm Investing in special, so definitely check that out if you haven't already, and if you're new here, for sure. Just because of this moment that we're in right now here in this cycle, entering the month of July, and we did have that deeper correction, which is what led me to take action and accumulate 3 new positions: Solana, Avalanche, and Proppy. So I did add a little bit more Dogecoin to the portfolio, and now my bags are packed. As I said, I was about 95-ish% in the market before the year 2024 even started. So I was doing a lot of my accumulations in the Q4 2023. I should say a lot of my final accumulations, because I was accumulating quite a bit during 2023 in and of itself. But here we are. I'm just adding a couple new plays, nothing crazy for me, just to balance everything out and get things in equilibrium. So now that we got that out of the way, last week, Bitcoin had this seemingly miraculous buyback into the weekly close, which, as you know, was also a very significant macro candle closure. Let me quickly go over here to the weekly chart. And what we're talking about was the weekly close above the 21 exponential right here. So we had this orange moving average, that's the 21 EMA. And we got that buyback right there into $62,700 here on this index chart. So right around 62,500. As some of you are aware, that came in like the final hour and a half of our weekly open. Into that weekly close. What I meant to say was the weekly open for the CME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and we had precious metals, Dow Jones, and that just brought in a lot of volatility in that final hour leading into the weekly close, which was also a bi-weekly and a bi-monthly and a quarterly candle. So it was huge to have that buyback into 62K. It created a short-term gap in the CME chart right there around 60,000. I mentioned that before it got filled in an update post. I told you guys to look out for that. It's likely to get filled, and it did. Got filled pretty much immediately. Then things got spicy. On July 4th and July 5th, there was a washout in the crypto market. As you can see, here's the 4th of July, Bitcoin losing about 5%. And then the following day, we had this flash correction with a tail getting all the way down to about 53K. And what's really significant about this is we actually started closing daily candles below the 200 moving average. And now we're trading below the 21 EMA on the weekly, which is a very weak position for Bitcoin to be in. Although, with this happening near the beginning of the month, similar to like what happened back in May, where we had May 1st was our lowest we went, and then we popped up after that. This is something to consider, because this happening near the beginning of the month, it doesn't completely invalidate the significance of last week's crucial candle closure in the final day of the month of June, which was again above 62,000. And as mentioned in my recent emergency market update, the decode for July 5th I shared weeks in advance clearly played out to be a significant date, but the direction I assumed was in fact a miscalculation. But it's truly amazing to see how this decoding system can reveal significant dates far in advance, and this was no doubt proof of that. Again, with July 5th being 89 days after the April 8th solar eclipse, as you can see here, this was considered the Great American Eclipse. 89 days after that, we have this July 5th date, and then actually 89 days after July 5th was this date of October 2nd, which is the upcoming solar eclipse, and that following date of October 3rd being the day that leaves 89 days left in the year. It's the official day of Rosh Hashanah. Again, more of this 89 code. And this is ending the Hebrew year, 5,784, and that reduces to 24. And this number 89 that we keep bringing up, it's the 24th prime number, hence the significance for this 89 code and this decode we shared. Interestingly enough, July 5th was also 65 days after May 1st, and I just brought up May 1st a moment ago. And this 65 connection could potentially be important here, because this was the day that Bitcoin traded into 56K, and then it bounced, retesting this macro resistance at 71,500. But as you can see here, we had a low into 56,500. That's 565, the palindrome of the number 56. And July 5th, which was just a couple days ago, was a 56 double-digit date numerology. And even though Bitcoin dumped to about 53,000 on this day of July 5th, we see that the daily close was 56,500-ish. So this 56 number is big, got bought back up into that daily close at 56K. BTC, the ticker symbol in Gematria, equals 56. So there's definitely more code playing out here. Then in my last update, I shared this connection from the all-time high that we had back in March. And if we were to take the full correction from this all-time high back over here to this swing low, it was 27%. And this came in on the 27th week of this year. This is all tied to Jupiter. By the code, we have Jupiter giving us 27 in Chaldean. And we have the Jupiter symbolism in this upcoming Paris Summer Olympics. We've talked about this many, many times. This will be during this month of July, leading into the first full day of the games on the 27th day of this month. Another 27 code. We have Paris giving us 27 by the code. Another really crazy thing, and I'll just quickly show you because I remembered this. Let me see if we can... I want to do this for you guys real quick. Forgetting exactly what it was. It was a connection by 151. Yeah, let me not put too much emphasis on this right now because I'm forgetting it, but we had a 151 code, and the reason I'm thinking of that is because that 151 is tied to the 36th prime number. There it is. It has to do with this upcoming July 9th. And that we're going to talk about in a moment. I'm so glad I remember this. It's super random, by the way. But this 151 is the 36th prime number, and that's crucial because we have here with Paris, we have the 36 and the mirror, 62, excuse me. Again, just kind of completely random here. Also, Paris has the 15, the mirror of that's the 51, that's the 151 palindrome. Just keep this stuff in mind because we are going to be talking about July 9th in a moment. But getting back to this, we were talking about the connection to Paris and this 27 code and how we're currently in the 27th week of the year and we're wrapping that up as we speak today. We had a 27% correction for Bitcoin from the current all-time high down to the recent lows on July 5th, this date that we were decoding. And the mirror of 27 would be 72, and that's Bitcoin is 72, and Bitcoin is Jupiter, the son of Saturn, the son of Satoshi. So my intuition is telling me that this Olympics plays into this whole market in many, many ways, including specifically cryptocurrency. My intuition's telling me that we need to get through this 33rd Olympic Games. Huge. We got to get through this 33rd Olympics to have the phoenix rising from the ashes, hence the flame symbolism. For this upcoming Olympics, I think we will have an event specifically tied to it. I've talked about this a lot with the Munich Massacre decode that I put out probably over a year ago, but I touched on it again in this Year of the Dragon decoded, so definitely check that out if you haven't. And why I'm really starting to feel this way is because of how long Bitcoin has been trading sideways and down for the past 4 months. And this 33rd Olympics closes on August 11th, which is literally the day leading into the 33rd week of the year, as you can see right here. This is very, very, very important. We also have Gary Gensler's the 33rd chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission as we speak. And we have a lot going on with that. This month of July was estimated to be the launch of the Ethereum ETF. We also have had a lot of talk about the SEC case versus Ripple and this 33rd Olympics, 33rd chair, Gary Gensler, 33rd week of the year. Like, this might really be it, guys. Got to consider this stuff. So, interestingly enough, the day the 33rd Olympics closes on, leading into the 33rd week of the year, will be August 11th, as you can see right here. Now, let me show you what August 11th's day is. It's the 224th day of the year, and this is the year 224, removing the zero in the rules of numerology. That is big. We talked about this last year as well, but specifically for the fact that this Olympics will be closing on this Sunday specifically, could be big. And as I said, this 33rd week of the year, starting the final day, we got to look out for this. So I'm glad that I have brought this up in advance. You know, like, this is over a month out from today, but keep this in mind. Basically, the decode here is we have the 33rd Olympics ending into the 33rd week of this Gregorian year. So this is making me think about July 9th, and I'm going to tell you why in a moment. Because July 9th is 33 days before August 11th, the closing date of the 33rd Olympics, and it has that 24 standard date numerology. Again, we're in the year 24 in the Hebrew year 5784, giving you this 24 code, and that's just 2 days away. This upcoming Tuesday, I suspect Paris and France will be having some problems on this day, especially with this being a Tuesday, Martes, day of Mars, the god of war. Also, another 24 tied to Paris is the country it's in. France, you have that 24 right there. And I just showed you moments ago this 151 connection back to the start of the Year of the Dragon. 151 is your 36th prime number, and you have right here Paris. giving you this 3663 mirror number. So I'm going to go ahead and assume there will be riots and civil unrest in Paris on this day based off this decode. There could also be other components to this. I do understand that they have an election right now. That's bringing a lot of turmoil to this whole, geopolitical situation. So outside of that, I just suspect that there will be a lot of energy built up on this upcoming Tuesday, and it will likely last for some time. It will likely last throughout the whole month of July. So keep this in mind. And as I mentioned in my last update, this really feels like we're in like the rip the band-aid off moment regarding the crypto market. As you all know by now, here in crypto, this market loves to bring maximum pain and maximum FOMO. And right now, I believe we're in this like maximum pain stage. It really does feel that way, that a lot of people are newer here. They got into the market during Q1 of this year when the market was entering this slight euphoric, extreme greed kind of energy. And now we're back in fear. And as you can see here, we've had a couple of days of fear entering the markets after last month being an extreme greed. We've had huge fluctuations in this horizontal trading range over the past 4 months, just continuing to bounce up and down in this really arduous sideways 130 plus day trading range. And retail isn't used to that because a lot of people get in when people are watching the charts go up every day. This has been a very elusive cycle. I think anyone who's newer to this, you're probably a little bit confused. And for those of you that have been around for a long time, you should be used to this by now. If you lived through the last bull run, we had something like this happen before the last bull run too. And it was right here. It just wasn't this new all-time high immediate phase, but it was this. And by the way, we had a huge black swan event in the midst of that. I mean, damn, if you were somebody who was buying the selling climax of the Q4 2018 into Q1 2019, well, that would be like buying here. So you've been dealing with all this craziness. There was also a 4-month 200 days of sideways in 2023, and then we bounced again. Now we're just in this stair step up. And usually what happens during these stair step moves is that we have a push down before a push up. It's just how it goes. So we're in that moment right now. And what I believe is considered to be the spring phase in Wyckoff. So let me show you that. Let's revisit this chart I created and shared for the first time within my new crypto decoding blueprint, also shared here a couple weeks ago for our mastermind community. And you can see this phase right here, phase D, or it's marked 3. This is the third move to the downside with a new lower low in the horizontal trading range. So let me just quickly read what this says over here, and then we'll kind of do step by step. All right, so I said this side-by-side comparison is actually the same Wyckoff reaccumulation schematic, but the key difference is it has 3 consecutive lower lows. So you hear one low, lower low, and then another lower low. 3 drives to the downside after 3 distinct rejections at resistance. And if we pull up the chart right here, you can see that we had 1, 2, 3 distinct rejections at the upside. This would be your absolute all-time high. This was an M pattern, and this was effectively another M pattern, but you could call this all the same because the time frame in between rejections was a single week. Here it might be like 2 weeks, but in the grand scheme of things, that's nothing. Okay, these are your 3 rejections to the upside. This is your first rejection to the downside, or this is your first low to the downside, your second drives to the low on the downside, and your third. Now, if we load up this chart, you can see kind of the way that this phase plays out. It takes a little longer. The buyback isn't as instant. So the reason for me labeling the 1 and 2 here and here is because of how right after that, we went right back to our prior resistance. You see, from here to here, from here to here. This phase might take a little bit longer. So when we look at it on the chart, you see how we broke down below the 66K level right here. Then we had our wolf cross with downside implied. And then we had this really jagged move to about 60K around June 24th. got a little bit of a buyback, and then fell deeper. So let's look at how this looks on the chart. That would be right here. We got a little bit of a buyback, and then since we fell deeper. And this has a kind of impulse wave structure, okay, where we have to hold these higher lows, but we eventually have to break this level right here, which is somewhere around 63, I'm assuming. Let me show you real quick. It's right here. Exactly, 63K. If Bitcoin could get above 63K, this was effectively the end of the spring. And if we follow that with a wolf cross of the 8 above the 55, then we are going to 100K after that. That's likely to be how this all plays out. And that's not my opinion necessarily, just the way that we've been working this trading range for so long and so many liquidations along the way. This is the end of the final kind of like corrective phase before we move higher. So here I bring up what this is all about. I say another drive to the lows can be in play, and that would be the final shakeout or a spring in phase C moving into phase D, which is the last retest at resistance before price discovery, which means that it's right here. This moment is the final part of phase D. We're in the beginning of phase D right now. We'll know that we're really in phase D when we break above 63K and really 66K, and then effectively get back up to our prior resistance. So 71,500 is so important. I brought this up like a billion times now. If Bitcoin can make it up to 63 and up, I assume we will be at 71 fast. That's just the way this kind of stage goes in the market. We're going to have a little bit of chop, a bear trap, get a lot of people to panic sell, which has been going on, pretty obvious now with all this fear in the market. And then there'll be a recovery phase. So we've had this third low already. It's just come and gone. July 5th, we had Bitcoin close above 56K, and now we're at this lower end of the trading range, which you can see right here, this dotted heart line. I've had this drawn on this chart for so long now. Like, if you've watched maybe the last 6 or so Red Pill podcasts, you've seen this parallel channel with this dotted heart line. And the fact that we broke below it on a daily close, but then got bought back above it, and then now we were about 4 dailies holding this level, this is incredible to see, especially with the synchronicity of July 5th having this 56, and then I showed you all the 56 connections. I mean, the start of the year of the dragon was a 56 date numerology. Let me see real quick. Yeah, we have the upcoming solar eclipse on October 2nd, which is the first day of Rosh Hashanah, also a 56 date numerology. I mean, that's a really, really significant number for this year, clearly. So this schematic that's playing out is very, very similar, especially given the timing of things, moving through the halving and maintaining a sideways market of over 100 days, which is very typical. And as we approach the fourth solar eclipse of our solar cycle, we're still not in price discovery, which was the case in the last cycle. And what we've seen in the past is within 2 months of the fourth solar eclipse, which is October 2nd, meaning about 60 days or so, 2 months. Within that 2-month time frame is when we see Bitcoin on its way into the next phase of the bull run. Meaning, with October 2nd being the fourth solar eclipse of our solar cycle, we'd be initially entering the next phase in early August. Now, we've brought up the idea behind July several times just because of how long Bitcoin's been sideways. I mean, unbelievable to watch it be sideways for 4 full months. But again, now it's showing that it's not much different than past cycles. This is very similar to past cycles. The only thing that was slightly different was that new all-time high before the halving, but that was short-lived. Look at where Bitcoin was trading at on the day of the halving. It was below the last cycle's all-time high. So yeah, like, we need to see now that this is a very cyclical asset. This asset loves to just do the same shit over and over and over again. And perhaps sometimes emotions do get in the way. I mean, for me, I haven't been emotional at all this cycle because I've lived through the last one, and I feel you have to learn from your experiences, and you have to create an investment thesis that you're willing to stomach through, even if it goes against you. And so far, this has not been going against me at all. I've been very calm and dealing with all of these major swings in the market and trying to avoid stuff that I know is just a shiny object in preparation for what's to come. So we had a lot of this similar stuff going on the summer before price discovery in 2020. Did we not? Like, let's look at Chainlink. What was Chainlink doing back then? So this is your C19 crash, and we were sideways all the way up until July. Let's look at Theta. By the way, one of the best performing assets of the last cycle. Look at Theta. It had a huge jump up into May. Then it followed with a 66% correction, which ended around late July. Then it started to move up. So July was that critical moment. Hey, let's check out Cardano. Oh, wow. Cardano had a very, very different phase. Cardano actually had quite a nice July, but we did have a sideways June. Very weird. It's like this July correction of 50% came in a little bit later. Oh, it could just be because it had a prior cycle. Well, Theta did not. And I urge you all to have fun with this stuff, guys. This is super fun to just look back at last cycles. And how did they do around certain time frames? Let's look at XRP. Yeah, XRP, we can see that right there into July 16th, we went pretty low. Late June, we were pretty low. And then right after that, we went up into this crown distributional top, but that was because of that flare airdrop stuff. There's so many examples though. Check out Solana just for fun. Solana topped in May, had a 60% correction into late July, and then look at what followed. It went up an additional 1,000% over 100 days. Fuck. That is not something that's fun for people. Let me turn off everything and show you. You see this? Sharp correction, bull trap, another correction, another lower high. You see this squeeze in here? This is the phase we're in now, man. It's the same shit. It's the same. It's the same. It's the same. This is this. So I don't know necessarily if these coins will have extended cycles. Bitcoin is capable of pulling that off. With these, it's a lot more speculative because they don't have all this chart history like Bitcoin has. Like Bitcoin has chart history going back to 2014. You know, Dogecoin has chart history going back to 2014. Solana doesn't, you know? So I'm just letting you know that this time frame of having this mid-cycle correction, which I was more adamant about us having a mid-cycle correction that lasted at least 100 days than I was about price discovery all January, all February, before we hit all-time highs in Bitcoin. So that's been on the table publicly, and I'm really glad that I shared those thoughts, even though it wasn't sexy to say at the time. So anyways, getting back to this, keep in mind, I just brought up a moment ago about the 60 days before the fourth solar eclipse, how that would really be a long sideways range for us to get into August before recovery. We would have from late February, effectively 5 full months. Wow, that would be crazy because it would be 22 weeks and 4 days in the 224 year. That could be something, right? Because August 3rd is right around the new moon. I'm not saying that's how it's going to go down, but just kind of coincidence that 224 number showed up. Anyways, we have to keep in mind, though, that in 2 of our cycles, we saw a noticeable correction between 32 to 36 days before the fourth solar eclipse. So I'm just going to show you this, and I'm giving you this information so far in advance. So 32 days before would be September 1st through August 28th, which is like saying the August full moon, right? Yeah. around a little bit after, but we don't even have to look at it from that perspective. It's not an exact science. It would just be like 1 month before we have that eclipse. We've seen some shakeouts too, and August is known to have a shakeout. I've showed you this in my last YouTube video. If you've been following my work for any amount of time, you know that August has these flash corrections. So please consider that. I would not be surprised if we did get a little bit of recovery at the end of this month into early August and then had something weird happen, like an isolated event. But the good news about that is if we were to make it up to, like, let's just say 71, 72 again before the end of this month or in the beginning of August, and then rise into that mid-August timeframe, then by mid-August have like a sharp move back to 66 to backtest that level, that would be amazing to have that happen structurally. That'd be very healthy. One moment, I need to grab some water. But let me just show you really quickly, because I brought this up in my last YouTube video. You see this big shakeout right here, August 17th into August 18th. That's what I mean. It's like every August we have these like weird kind of flash corrective moments. Here we topped out on August 15th, and then by August 19th we had a 10% red candle. Of course, that was the end of a bear market. So, but we see these kind of distributional tops into September as well. We see right here on August 2nd, that was a 6% red candle. Really massive volatility on that date. I don't need to go through all of them, but we've done this before where we've gone through the month of August, and it tends to have these shakeouts. So keep that in mind. And this is also the phase where Bitcoin starts to catch up with the stock to flow model. When I say the next phase of the bull run, which is within 60 days leading into October 2nd. So basically what we could kind of assume is in October. That's what I mean to say. Around the 4th solar eclipse, we should be catching up with stock to flow. We don't need to be perfectly on it. We know that we can catch up to stock to flow because we've already done it this cycle. Here we went above it. So yeah, we can catch back up to stock to flow. And that would make a lot of sense for that to happen around the upcoming solar eclipse in October. And if we look between somewhere around September into the end of this year, stock to flows at $90,000 to $200,000 Bitcoin. It'll be crossing 200,000 in January 2025. And I've already said that that's kind of the time frame where I initially think we'll have a peak, at least the first peak in the market. And I'm open-minded to having a double peak, kind of similar to what we had in the last year of the dragon moving into the year of the snake, which I decoded that thoroughly in the crypto decoding blueprint in the 2024 bull run decoded. And I also shared information about this in the 2025 year of the snake decoded. But that is wild to think that this next phase, moving into September, October, we could be approaching that 6 figures then. And I'm not saying that we will absolutely hit the 200K mark by January, but keep this stuff in mind. Like, the longer we trade sideways and the more arduous this is and the more shakeouts they are, the more explosive this gets. That's just the way these crypto bull cycles go. So in short, within 3 to 4 weeks of the 4th solar eclipse, let's just call it September, Bitcoin starts behaving noticeably bullish. And this is tough because this month of September, it's very strange, a very weird month, especially for the traditional markets leading up to an election. We can see election years in the stock market not have the greatest performance in September, typically flat. Then October, we have down. It's November. During the election, we have the down energy as well. So one thing to mention, though, is that this year, the entire year so far, essentially feels like they let the bull loose, because we're seeing the stock market close week after week after week at all-time highs. And the crypto market is not benefiting from that at all. So it seems like it's decoupling for the time being. But for now, let's head into the charts and see what's going on after this incredibly volatile week, starting with Bitcoin. We have the weekly chart we need to tune into because of what we're watching go down. And we've tapped into it. We've even got lower than it. The 34 EMA should hold, otherwise it will start to look incredibly weak for Bitcoin. We also have a 5-day close coming in tonight, on Monday, on tomorrow night. This is important for me. If we can pop back up above 60K, which would be insane. If we could pop back above 60K to close above this 34 EMA, which we were holding as support for the past 2 weeks, that would be a very nice impulsive buyback on the macro candle closure during this time based on this type of chart structure that we're looking at. But when we head over to the 3-day chart, it's telling a story. And not only did we have a wolf cross where the 8 is going below the 55, that's downside implied. What's so interesting about this is that the last time we had this cross was during this August new moon right here. And if you checked out my recent emergency update here for the mastermind community, I mentioned that there's similarities for that same correction. But now let's dive deeper into this since we brought it up. So in mid-August of last year, we had this new moon correction. Very, very unusual. It's not common to see this at all, especially during a bull run and outside of an eclipse season. So these are more rare to see, such dumps on a new moon. And the August new moon correction was down 9%. If you just look right there, right now, you'll see it was down 9%. Well, this new moon correction that we had was also down 9% on the July new moon. This followed with the first downside implied wolf cross of the year. It's the same as today. So we had the first one of 2023 happen right there after the same pattern, and we're having it happen right now, same way, effectively the same time, within a month. And if you look at how last year we had these two fake out kind of distributional tops in a row into Q3, and this year it's literally the same. Only difference is we did go lower this time, and we had the largest correction of our cycle so far with about a 27% correction from the swing high to the swing low. Keep this in mind. We usually get about a 30 to 35% mid-cycle correction, and Bitcoin kind of growing in market cap at this time, we should have moved the lowest so far. And the very interesting thing when we pull up this horizontal trading range is this previous trading range would have been the level that a lot of people were setting orders. Like, I'm talking about people that do TA, people that are like trying to get fancy with this market. They probably would have set orders around 50, maybe 51. And the thing is, Bitcoin loves to do this where the apex predator who runs this market knows where all the orders are. They're never going to bring it to that exact level at that exact time. Like, they love to do this in both directions. That's just the name of the game for them. They know what you're going to do. So that's why I always put my limit orders higher when I'm talking about buying, and I always put my limit sell orders lower in regards to de-risking or selling, because I don't care if it goes higher. I'm just here to profit, right? And it's the same thing with picking up corrections. You can't get greedy to the downside and expect to catch the perfect bottom on the tail of a candle. It's just not how it goes. So I would not be shocked if this is the end of it, especially with the way this buyback has gone. Keep this stuff in mind. Also, we had this parallel channel that's been forming. We've bought back up into it just a couple days ago. Similar kind of vibe of falling out of it this Monday and over here on Friday. And the way we got bought back, I wouldn't be surprised if we have a couple more days of sideways, and then we could be breaking out of this, actually leading into the next quarter moon, holding this structure. And it would be very, very healthy if Bitcoin could get back above the daily chart 200 moving averages sooner than later. And right now we're below. Although I don't trust these two past candles because yesterday was a Saturday, today's a Sunday, this kind of Twin Towers vibe that we're getting, like, this is not to be trusted on a weekend. But we'll see after tomorrow's market opens. The traditional markets will be telling a story. And we've made it through this holiday week. So, kind of right there in this, market participants are going to get more excited about playing this game now that we've had a substantial pullback. And the ETF people are gonna be playing this game really, really heavily right now. I remember over here, it was so exhausting every day watching people post these Bitcoin inflow charts as if we were just gonna go to heaven, and that didn't turn out that way. So I don't know what those people are still doing today. I don't know if they're still like yelling at the sky, but that was really annoying back then because it had nothing to do with TA and it had nothing to do with reality. And it was making it seem like that was the reason why we went up. But in actuality, now that we've behaved the way that we have been, especially with the recent halving, again, it's not any different than past cycles without the Bitcoin ETF. And also, something that's really important to mention is if Bitcoin was only able to get 7% higher than prior all-time highs with this quote-unquote institutional player in the game, such as BlackRock, then that's really sad because that's lackluster performance given who's playing this game with us now. Anyways, everything popular is wrong. You guys know this. So let's look at this chart really quickly. We had this Saturn retrograde analysis that we've done a couple weeks ago, and we do have this support trend line, which could be turning into like a huge bull flag. So I'll be keeping that in mind. Look up this parallel channel. Ooh. This could be fun. Because you see right here that this would be your all-time high, your second lower high, and then once we got above here, we did hold this as a support, and then it clearly was a support until this dropped down to the heart line, and then we got back up to the prior resistance of this flag pattern. We got rejected, and then it led to this cascading event to the downside back to support. So this could effectively be turning out to be a huge bull flag. Something like this. And that brings us exactly to the next level. So that's perfect because going from this 74-ish, would you look at that? That's pulling this fib from the current all-time high down to the swing low on July 5th. And this shows you your 1618 is exactly at that 87K level where that flag, half staff flag pull is. Bellissimo. 87K, baby. That would not surprise me soon. Probably within, I would say before Q4. I would say before Q4. 87K is in the cards. So that would put us by September. That's a possibility. Now, what would that be from where we are? That would be a 60% move to the upside. Let's look at how much Bitcoin went up here. We went up 90% in 48 days. Can we go up 60%? Yes. Okay, let's move over to Ethereum. But really quickly before I do that, I think it's important to talk about downside targets because we're not like perma bulls here. That's not what we do. The previous trading range is your downside target. So you would want to look to this previous trading range on the extreme. But with the way that Bitcoin's been trading off of this bounce and seeing how it's held over the weekend, we'll see what it does when the traditional markets open up. But this type of bounce back above 56 is promising, although we could effectively follow this trend line lower and lower and lower until the full moon. And that puts us right around 51K, which is right around that previous trading range. And then if this really, really wants to shake people out, then it would be the Bitcoin ETF approval price. Right when Bitcoin ETF approval happened, 49K Bitcoin. Then we had the Super Bowl following up where Bitcoin immediately broke above 49K again after the 49ers lost. And then we moved up to March 13th all-time high. Again, 4 years ago when the 49ers also lost against the same team, the Kansas City Chiefs. March 13th was the lowest price Bitcoin went to. So this was as above, so below. Probably should investigate that last cycle more too. Okay, we should move on. ETH, real quick. ETH doing the same exact shit as Bitcoin. It broke below the 200 exponential on a daily close. Now it's kind of like stuttering around the 200s, but we're holding that support level. So it's looking a little bit better than Bitcoin. The way that it bought back up and where it's trading at, and considering these 34 or so candles that we're holding in this lower range around 3,000, it's brilliant. It did wash out all the way down to 2,800, but it's already gotten down there before plenty of time. So this isn't weird for ETH to come down here. Now, the only reason this would be weird to some people is for the people that were full-blown believers that the ETH ETF was somehow going to just launch us into price discovery for ETH. And don't ever think those things create those outcomes. All of the bullish energy came in before the approval of the ETF, and then we had about a week of bullish energy for the week that it was approved, and then since it's been down. So yeah, be careful with that stuff. But anyways, now that we've come back down to this level, that is looking a little bit similar to this type of chart as well, where we have 3 drives to the downside, or we just have 2 big drives to the downside. And it's spaced out. So we had this considering to be all one, and then this would be your spring, like buying climax. This would be your selling climax, automatic rally. And then this would be like a huge shakeout moment of having lots of chop to the downside before a SOS. But the reason that's invalidated is because we came back down to this level. So the way that it would go is you would extend this out into a more macro outlook, where this is your buying climax, this is your selling climax, your automatic rally, and this is your spring. And that's why lately most of the charts, I've been feeling like calling this the spring, just because of what I'm seeing in the Bitcoin chart too. And we know Bitcoin is what moves the market. So ETH looking pretty good, but we have to look at this daily close low over here of May 13th, which is around 2,800. And if we were to start closing lower than that, then you would suspect a little bit further to the downside of around 2,700. And let's look at the full correction so far for ETH. It's 30% on the nose. So we don't really need to go too much lower. That's about as much as ETH likes to do. It's a little bit more mature now. And of course, we just had the approval of the ETF, which does allow us to have a little bit more mature moves, instead of like we've seen a lot of other altcoins lose 70% from this recent correction. And this is still about 70% away from retesting all-time highs. So that's really nice to see too. A lot of room to go. So it's still an opportunity to get into ETH during this macro backup phase. Not financial advice, but that's how I would feel on this. XRP broke down again, went down to 38 cents, which is now starting to fill this wick from August 17th. So those of you that were back here with us last year in the month of July, literally last year, we de-risked XRP pretty much at the perfect place. And it's been down and even more down lately. So this isn't the most exciting chart to analyze week by week, because it hasn't really done anything except break our horizontal support now, which was sitting around 48 cents. Now we're back at this really, really low, dangerous support of May. If we start closing lower than the May 2023 lows, I mean, you're back into the 30-cent range. So this is getting tedious, to say the least. It is still very much, though, looking the exact same way that XRP was trading before it just broke out in a straight line. It was down, 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 down for so long. When you zoom out, you'll see exactly what I mean. Let's go to like a weekly chart and you'll see. So here, this Christmas tree top, I am calling that here. That was the 2021 alt season. It was right here. It was here. This November is this level here. And then all this chop that's been going on leading to the downside, you can see it didn't quite get as low as the lows here, slightly higher, but it did start to trade a little bit lower than what was going on in the middle of the horizontal trading range, and that was right here. So this is scary how it's mimicking. This is going to be epic if this breaks out in a similar fashion, because nobody really was there at this time invested in it as much as they were right now. Like, the XRP community has grown so much over this whole time. And, you know, shout out to the people out there that have done their part to share their truth on this and bring awareness to it. But what we're watching is there's so much hopium right now in the XRP community, and it's been going on and going on and going on, and there's been very little de-risking going on in the process whenever we do get these bigger moves to the upside. And you guys know here on this channel, I mean, when I started my channel, I was doing my de-risking at about 150 in the last cycle. We got some sells up at 186, and then I sold on the day of the Shemitah around that 140 level. And then I had a big de-risk that I did back in July after the Ripple SEC case update that XRP was not deemed a security. So we've been de-risking this whole time. And it was important to do that because you need to have a balanced portfolio. And I know some people don't want to hear this. They don't care about that kind of information. But it's just to let you know that even if we're not perfect exactly with de-risking on every single asset, it's okay. You need to learn how to take action on this stuff, because right now what I'm watching is a lot of XRP people are getting so frustrated and so aggressive and getting mad at everyone for their choices that they made. You know, and that's really unhealthy. You got to correct that behavior. And these are just some market words of wisdom right now. Not everyone wants to hear it, but for those that are trying to get better at navigating these markets and become a more sophisticated investor, this is the stuff you're going to have to start taking into consideration. So yes, we're seemingly mimicking this time frame over here, where this was really, really arduous and really, you know, confusing. But then it just popped crazy, and that's kind of feeling to me what's going on right now. Like, we're getting so close to that moment. And I'm not trying to bring people hopium, but what I've been saying this whole time is we need Bitcoin price discovery in order to see that pop. So I can't really fill in too much extra analysis for now without, you know, just being completely transparent that if we break these May lows on a weekly candle close, then the 30-cent range will be back in the conversation. And then that would effectively be like what happened back in February, March of 2017, before we just broke out in a straight line. So let's move over to stacks. All right. And sorry about my voice today, guys. It's just a lot of communication lately. Doing my best. Only one person. All right, so we have a this thing broke out into price discovery by a little bit, just like Bitcoin did. And then since it's had a about a 70% correction, almost 60% correction back to the 702, and now it's below the 702, and we're about to have another weekly close below the weekly closures of the beginning of the year. So this is now on a downtrend for the year. Whoa. You know, the eclipse to eclipse shit is so wild, because this was your eclipse and this was your next eclipse. Like, do you guys understand how powerful this stuff is? This was your first eclipse, or I would call it the second solar eclipse of our solar cycle, and this was your third solar eclipse of the solar cycle. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. This was your first solar eclipse of the solar cycle. This was your last lunar eclipse of the lunar cycle. Like, does this shit blow your mind or what? If you bought the last lunar eclipse of the lunar cycle and de-risked a couple weeks before the first solar eclipse of the solar cycle, And then you got back in a couple weeks before the second solar eclipse of the solar cycle and sold into the third solar eclipse of the solar cycle. Like, this is madness. I'm going to definitely be using this with a lot more vigor in the next cycle because it's just so magical, man. It's unbelievable. So yeah, all in all with the stacks chart, we could talk about a couple things. One, this is your C19 crash, and from C19 crash to effectively selling climax, it was about 180, 200% up, so that's great. But to where we are today is over 1,000% higher. So this was an awesome investment all throughout 2020 and into the selling climax of 2021. It bottomed out effectively at the same time of Bitcoin, and it broke out into new all-time highs effectively at the same time of Bitcoin. So it's really following Bitcoin. I mean, shit. Look at this. April highs, big correction into the June timeframe, double top into November. This is following Bitcoin 1-to-1. What an interesting logo, too. Okay. So, I mean, this is good, but it's overheated. You know, it's really high. I don't like buying stuff that's already in the golden pocket. Let me see what the market cap on this is. 45th. Okay, so shit, it's in the top 50. Amazing. Ooh, we got that orange color. Okay, so the fire flame kind of symbolism. V above the A, that's Eve above Adam. Equal sign. Division. Breaking apart the polarities. Really, really fascinating. I'm not sure why it's purple here, but that orange symbolism is very telling. It's like following Bitcoin 1-to-1. What was the all-time high? 3.8. Yeah, I mean the 73 on the highest daily close. Is that true? So we have 3.7, 3.7 on the highest daily closes, and then 73K was Bitcoin. So yeah, there's a little bit of like a mirroring going on there. It's fascinating. Anyways, yeah, I can't spend too much time on this. This could be potentially coming a little bit lower because of this structure being broken right here of getting this weekly close below the January 15th close, and then you would look to the 1618, and that 1618 should be supported if this isn't supported already, because we have this wick, two wick rejections here, these two tails over here, and then we've effectively come back down to it. But what happens sometimes is when Bitcoin is in this current phase of the bull run where it switches, and if it moves bullish soon, it's going to get a lot of dominance. So when it flips up in that dominance, it could actually take away from these things in the short term, like in the immediate part of that move. So during the month of July, this could effectively come back to $1.14, and then that would be an additional 20% from where we are now. And that would be pretty toasted. I would say that that needs to chill, because yeah, it would start getting pretty oversold. But then bouncing from there would be common, because that's the bottom of the golden pocket after you've already gotten into slight price discovery. And then after that would be the real price discovery once you could clear this level here at around 340. Let's go over to Swift coin, which I don't think I've ever covered before. Oh shit. Oof. Talk about sideways. Mamma mia. So this is all the way back into 2018. It's the same fucking price as it launched at 2,000 days ago. A very wild chart. This is very uncommon. So this is your C19 crash. Damn, this thing didn't even like have a bull run last cycle. I mean, I guess it did. Oh shit, yeah, I mean, that's a awesome move if you could fucking get out of it. Look at this. It's like this is the most blow off tops I've ever seen in a single chart. Boom, 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 boom. Goodness gracious, it's like it looks like a fucking sine wave when you're making a drum, making some drums on Ableton or something. Yeah, I really don't even know, because this is so unorthodox, this charting something like this. But I'm gonna do my best, because that's, let's have fun. I don't even trust this fib pull. I can't even tell if this data is actually accurate. It's such a bizarre chart. Talk about pumpy dumpy. This has more Bart Simpson heads than like XRP has had in its entirety. Yeah, I don't like see I'm not clowning right now. I'm not trolling this. This is just when I look at charts like this, I would not want to feel I would not feel comfortable investing in stuff like this. If it was like 0.5% of my portfolio, sure. So yeah, lately it's had a nice move. It broke into slight a couple of days of glory above prior all-time highs, and then it came right back down. As we speak, it's down about 50%, so nothing crazy. But the chop is still going. The chop is still going. Little to no structure here in any short-term conversation. And in the long term, it's just been sideways since it came out, but in huge swings up and down. Like we're talking about a 200% move to the upside for like a couple days, followed by an 80% washout here. Again, off the 236 fib, 300% for a couple of days, and then down 80 fucking percent. Like, why? What is going on here? Anywho, yeah. Same thing I shared with the last project. When you get back into the golden pocket, you could retest this lower range at about the 618003. That's a level where this gets rejected a lot. Look, boom, 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 boom. And that was your initial breakout. So 003 would be a good level for that to backtest, but it doesn't need to go down there because the 702 is good enough. But if it was to come back down there and do a full 64% correction, that wouldn't be weird for this project because this shit has done that a gazillion times. Seriously, like the proof is in the chart history. So, but now if it was to do that, I wouldn't touch this thing. This is not an investment to me. This is the gambling casino. And I would just not personally feel comfortable in any chart that looks similar to this. Again, that's not me trying to persuade you to not invest in it. I'm just being real. Okay, now we're looking at Constellation DAG. Got some Saturnian symbolism going on. Also purple. I think they've changed their logo. These are the lows of September into October, and we made it back down there. So this is like you're getting a chance to buy the bottom, which is fucking glorious. Okay, March 2020, where are we at? Sorry. So this thing is up about 400% since the C19 crash. That's very good to see. I like this horizontal trading range and the way that we had our price discovery moment, and then we back tested the resistance of the prior horizontal trading range. That to me is beautiful. So you see right here, boom. And then we back tested it here. And now we're coming back to really check in on this 3 cent area. Really check in on it, because here was your, what you would call like an SOS, a sign of strength. And then this was your backup phase. I know it doesn't look like much, but it was at least a month. Yeah, 35 to 40 days. And we filled this wick enough now. And of course we've gotten slightly below it, but now we're in that mode where like we're really certain that 3 cents to about 2 cents is your lows. It's your support. So I like to see that. Now, what is the retest on the new all-time high? Wow. Okay, so you got 1,300% above you. So I like stuff like that. When I have that much opportunity above me, I like that for venture capital, because it's like, what do I have to lose? 2% of your portfolio. If it goes up to fucking 1,000%, then you won, right? And nothing I'd be putting huge amounts into though, because again, what are you betting on? You're betting on something that's kind of down at the current cycle lows, whilst Bitcoin is like chilling all the way up here near prior all-time highs. So this is not catching up to like Ethereum. It's not catching up. It's playing its own kind of game. And a basket of coins look like this, by the way. There's a lot of there's even some projects that I'm personally invested in that look like this. But again, it's all venture capital. It's something I would not mind being in like 2% or less of my portfolio, because look at the upside opportunity, not even to bet on price discovery, just to get back to all-time highs. So anyways, let me pull a fib real quick, and then we'll wrap this project up and then wrap up today's podcast. So we're back below the 236. Holy shit. All right, so this is like as good as it gets for a buying opportunity. And then you have this clear level here of the 382, and that's what I teach anyways. So keep using the fibs the way that I have given you so many tutorials on how to use them, you know, effectively once you get above the 382, especially if you have this first big impulse. The second time getting there, then getting above the 0.5, it's when you move into that mode of like, you can get back to all-time highs very fast. I mean, look at what it did over here. It moved up in 60 days from this level, which we're fucking trading at right now. It moved up from there to there. And you know why that happened? Because Bitcoin went into price discovery. Once Bitcoin goes into price discovery, you start seeing 1,000% moves in 2 months on absolute shit coins, which I'm not calling this one, but I'm just letting you know. Price discovery on Bitcoin's it's where it's at. That's why when I'm seeing coins that are down 70, 80% right now, I'm like, who cares? Even if you're a little bit wrong, like the market's due to recover, right? Timing it has been the name of our game here. You know, we're really, really solid here with knowing the dates and when to anticipate big energy. And overall, if you've been looking at the track record going back throughout the past bull run and a half, let's just call it the last bear market up until today, we've known all the big significant pivots very far out in advance. And the next big pivot that I've been letting you know about is October 2nd. So we're here on July 7th, man. And you guys have known about that for like how many months now? You know, it's a really, really opportunistic moment. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to convince anyone. Really interesting. We're looking at Tron right now. Okay. Wow, yeah. So being in this during the C19 crash and buying that bottom was a good decision because this shit's up 800%. Still hasn't broken prior all-time highs, but like, and this isn't to play the game of comparisons, but comparison to like XRP, this was a kind of a better investment. It's not nearly as low, but not enough chart history. And yeah, I mean, not that it has to be about this comparison game. That's not my point, but I'm just letting you know that if XRP was matched up to where this is right now, XRP would be like $1.50. Just to let you know, because this was the alt season of April 2021 and XRP almost got to $2. And that's effectively, if I had to compare, that would be like a $1.50 XRP. Instead, it's at 40 cents. So yeah, clearly hasn't caught up at all. And I know this SEC case is one part of it, but there's also other factors going on. This chart is fine. I mean, I don't really have any desire to personally invest in this while it's retesting prior all-time highs. And I do think that it has the chance to go into price discovery though. But let's look at how far away it is from prior all-time. Okay, so it's 120% away from prior all-time highs. Whilst like the Dogecoin play, and I know I keep kind of bringing that up, but like, dude, Doge, 500, almost 600% now from prior all-time highs. I just picked up a little bit of it at 11 cents a couple days ago. Sure, it could go a little bit lower, but like this back test on the 236 was iconic. Right there, boom, perfect. Nice bounce there, and if it could get back above this 12-cent range, this was a spring in the short term, and then yeah, dude, like this thing is at the 236 right now. Only project that's been continuously hitting the 1618 on every single fucking bull run. So like, yeah, I mean, maybe I do need to keep bringing this up. But like, if we get back to $3, that's 2,500%. I don't know about this though. You know what I've been hearing though? I've been hearing that these guys, they like use their own stable coin to keep this shit propped up. That's what I've heard. I can't confirm that, but that's what I've heard. Now, the other argument here is people say that, well, if it wasn't for Elon in the last cycle, it would not have went so high. Well, you're right. You know, you're 100% right. Let me show you why that doesn't alter my investment thesis at all. This is where it went without so much of Elon. It went literally to the fucking 1618, and then I had a pretty nice correction. 50-something% correction. This next move up was because of a lot of the tweets, the SNL skit, all of that. But I'm not banking on this second impulse. I'm just saying that if it got up to close to the 1618, if it got to the 1618, which it has in every cycle. So I just showed you the de-risk target a full dollar below that. And that's 2,700%, right? I mean, I'm not just making this shit up. It's done it every cycle. It's done it every cycle. Bet on the data. Yeah, there was some memery going on with Daddy Elon, but that's not part of my investment thesis. And hey, if he wants to come back in and shill it, which again, that's what this game has sometimes, has some mascots, then by all means, I really don't care. There will always be shills and mascots and people cosplaying as heroes during these cultural moments, you know? Take it for what it is. Play the game. Don't let the game play you. But getting back to Tron, I've heard through the grapevine that they are keeping this up with stablecoin manipulation, and that's really interesting if that is true. I don't love the way this coin moves. I'm not the biggest fan of what I know about Justin Sun. Not that that should ever get in the way of your investment thesis, but I do suppose at the end of the day, if you're a value investor and kind of want to be long-term about some of your positions, then you should care about some of that stuff. Needless to say, this is looking pretty solid in the recovery and the way that it's recovered, and the fact that it's back at the 786. All it needs to do is breach this 888 fib. So if it could get back above 20 cents, I think it'll enter price discovery shortly after that. So keep that in mind. Getting above the 888 fib, I think, is crucial for this project at this time. Now, on the other side of things, if Bitcoin was to come down again, another leg lower, which I'm feeling is less likely, then I think this 10-cent level would be breached. But all in all, like, what is that? Another 15 to 20% correction, maybe, if you're lucky. I just don't personally feel like investing in something that's so close to prior all-time highs and has a structure like this, where it's trading near the prior highs of the last alt season. I had one exception. My only fucking exception was Solana. The only exception. Because of a very mythological, esoteric theory that I shared in my crypto decoding blueprint. And it's my way of being like, okay, I did all this hard work. I put like my heart and soul into this project. Let's see if my theory comes true, which is that the next ETF that'll be approved will be Solana, and that will be a part of a kind of trinity battery between Bitcoin as Jupiter, or this like, oh yeah, you guys who have this blueprint, it's so lit, right? Because you already know what I'm getting into and like how deep it gets. But yeah, Bitcoin kind of being the one pillar, and then we have Polaris being this ether, or being Ethereum, and then you have XRP coming in after Solana to be the bridge between it all, like the X that crosses the poles, and Solana's the black sun below. So for those of you that made it this far to the podcast, you just got some free game of something that's very, very unique and something I haven't shared with the world yet. But I'm giving it some time to let all the people that have invested in my art get this information and absorb it all, and perhaps bring me some feedback. And then I'll have something that I share with the world that it will be out there, kind of letting everyone know my thoughts. But with the approval of a Solana ETF, that would really solidify it all. And then the SEC Ripple case being over would really, really solidify it all, because I think shortly after that will be the approval of the XRP ETF. And then we have our top four, you know, and then that's really what's going to lay out the foundation for regulation and all the other things that are about to go down after this election year. Because this election year is important. It's a distraction year, as all things are. You guys here aren't distracted. You're able to identify the distractions. But anyways, I don't want to go too deep down that rabbit hole for now. I'm going to wrap up today's podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed everything. I hope you had an amazing week in the Matrix. Like I said, keep an eye on tomorrow's daily close for Bitcoin, because it will be the 5-day candles, and if we can get above 60K by tomorrow, that would be insanity. Okay, because like I said earlier in today's podcast, that 62K closure that we just had is not invalidated, guys. It's not. It's structurally perfect. Yes, I do understand that we're closing below the 21 EMA as we speak, most likely, but This has happened last year, and that was still a healthy correction. It was right around here, and you see what that led to. And the pivot was right on the fourth solar eclipse in the solar cycle. So it's not discouraging me, and I'm not worried right now. I would start getting worried if I start seeing all of the downside levels get breached. And right now, we still have this previous trading range between 50 and 52. My only feeling, though, is why would the market maker allow it to get there? That would be too obvious. They want to get above, and then you start catching it after, the FOMO comes back in. So a lot that was covered in today's podcast, lots of streams of consciousness along the way. Hope you guys were taking notes, and I'll be sharing a midweek market update if needed. But for now, appreciate every single one of you. Hope you're all having an amazing rest of your weekend in the Matrix. Much love.